Tighten up.
Yep.
I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body. And that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
Hey, this is the Game Triple H from the WWE. You're watching RxMuscle.com, the truth in bodybuilding.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Whatever's on your mind, bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, it is all on the table. We're going to go straight into the questions. The first 2 questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, Dave, I'm trying to hit 50 grams of protein per meal. If some of my meals fall short by, say, 5 to 10 grams, can I fill the gap with 1 or 2 scoops of Amino Evolved?
You know, it's an interesting question. You know, a lot of people have asked me this. If I'm not getting enough protein at a meal, can I use like a branch chain amino acid product like my Amino Evolved or essential amino acid product to kind of fill the void? You know, doing that is essentially what these companies got caught doing, which is called protein spiking. It's like just adding amino acids to make up the gap that's missing from the protein you're eating. It's not the same as whole food. It's not going to give you the same benefit. If you need 50 grams of protein, whole food protein, whether it be whey isolate or chicken breast, you know, and you're going to only eat 25 of that, and you can do 25, grams of essential amino acids, you're not going to get the same benefit from that. So the answer to that would be no. If you can't get enough the food you're eating, you might want to do a scoop or half a scoop of whey isolate, you know, like my ISOLYZE protein. That would be adequate, I think. So branch chains, essential aminos are good between meals, maybe while you're training. They're not going to be a substitute for food or a whole food shake like whey.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. When should I incorporate your power building program, and how long should I follow it?
Yeah, on the Dave Palumbo Experience app, which is where these questions are from, and if you guys are interested, you can go to your Android store or your iTunes store and sign up. It's $29 a month. You get access to everything I've ever written, all my videos I've ever done. We put up a workout every week. I answer everyone's questions and answers in an open forum. So you ask questions, I answer them. Everyone sees the questions and answers, and I do a Q&A video every week where kind of similar to this, except exclusive to the app members. So this is something that a lot of people really enjoy. In the app, one of my workouts that is up there is called my Power Phase workout, where it's kind of like an off-season program when you start your cycle or start your off-season where you want to start growing. And it's a lot of basic movements, like 10 sets of squats for legs. That's your leg workout. A lot of just benching or incline benching, bent rows, deadlifts, just a lot of basic movements, not a lot of little window dressing movements or isolation movements. And you do that for like 6 to 8 weeks. And that's usually, your body probably can't handle it for more than that because it's a very intense training system. Now, the question was, I almost forgot the question. Sid, what was the question there about that particular?
So the question was about your power building approach and when should it be incorporated?
Oh, I see. Okay, so I'm pretty much answering that. So what you want to do is use that in an off-season scenario where you're eating a lot of food, you're consuming enough nutrients that you can recover properly, and you don't want to do it for an extended period of time, probably beyond 8 weeks. Otherwise, probably 6 to 8 weeks is ultimately the range you're looking for, and then you go back to conventional type training. It's good because it kind of breaks up the monotony and shocks your body a little bit. It gives it the ability to really focus on the basic core building movements so you can build mass, and then once that stage goes past, you move on to, like I said, a more conventional with using other movements as well. And I find that it helps people push past plateaus.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us on Instagram, the handle handle is official_RX Muscle. If you're watching us for the first time here on YouTube, welcome. We ask that you subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss any of our shows, any of our segments, any of our updates, or any of our live programming. We go live once or twice during the course of the week. Sunday night, Heavy Muscle Radio has become a live staple. It's a lot of fun. Dave, Chris Aceto, sometimes mixing in John Romano, Lee Priest, and a revolving cast of characters. But the best part of it is the fact that you're live with the show. So any of your questions, any of your feedback, we get to take it live. So Sunday night, generally around 10 to 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then Monday, our brand new show, Iron Therapy, where we have licensed sports therapist Leslie Timble. Very important, set of subjects relating to mental health performance, the unlocking, I guess, the mental key to performance in bodybuilding, sports in general. So it's been a really powerful series yesterday, diving a little bit more into the latest with Colin von Moger and, obvious signs of a plea to help. So, it's a very useful show. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, from the bodybuilding community as far as it helping them as well through some of their mental hurdles. So check that out. New show, Iron Therapy, Mondays, generally around 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Sid, what's interesting about that show is that it was really meant to talk about different, topics that affect the brain, so to speak, not just the body in bodybuilding. And I find that I'm telling a lot of stories about crazy stuff that I've gone through and mental issues that I've had and focus issues and substance abuse. Every topic that we've talked about, somehow I could apply to my own life, which is weird, which is not really weird, which is just goes to show that we all go through these different stages of maybe not thinking we're good enough, or maybe thinking that or maybe have a slight eating disorder, or maybe thinking that, we have to take something to make ourselves feel better, like substance abuse wise. And these are all things that we all struggle and toil with all the time. So they're very relevant topics. And so sometimes it's not just about how many chicken breasts you eat, and it's about what you're thinking in your mind. And this show really helps you stay grounded and deal with these issues.
So again, if you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below, and as always, we appreciate all of your support. First question from Ivan Benyon, that's a good friend of the show. Your opinion on potassium loading before the show when you're dehydrated, and on potassium-sparing diuretics like aldactone. How much potassium? Hyperkalemia. How dangerous is it? So I guess it's a pretty loaded question about potassium loading before a show.
Right. So sodium and potassium are on a regular basis in the right ratio in your body. Okay. The only way they can get out of the right ratio is if you do something to screw them up. That would be taking too much potassium in. Okay, can overload your potassium. Depleting potassium could screw you up. Depleting too much sodium, okay, can do that. Taking an extra salt won't do that, because salt will just get pushed out of the body, by your kidneys. So only you guys can screw up those levels. Now, that's why I tell everyone, don't do kooky, crazy stuff the last week of a show. Don't load with potassium. Don't deplete with potassium. Don't take diuretics that deplete potassium. If you take Diazide, like I told you, and we've probably talked about this subject a million times, right? The last day, if you take a little Diazide and restrict some fluid intake, and don't even cut out your sodium completely, but just maybe lower it a little bit, you're going to deplete some sodium in water. Your potassium levels will stay the same because you're on a potassium-sparing diuretic, like Diazide, which doesn't cause depletion of potassium, only sodium. And the only thing that could possibly go wrong is you get a little sodium depleted, and if you do get a little bit crampy, you just eat a little salt, and on a meal, or drink a little salt and maybe an ounce or two of water, and you correct the problem. The problem is what people do is they overload on potassium. They take potassium supplements, they eat potatoes, they eat bananas, and they get too much potassium, and that can cause a problem, okay? Or they take aldactone and they do that and they really overload potassium, and then they wind up having a heart attack and dropping dead, or wind up in a hospital because of overload of potassium. Other people take potassium depleting diuretics like Lasix or Demodex, and then they lose potassium and sodium, and then they cramp and they don't know what's causing it, so they don't know if they should take sodium or potassium in, and invariably they pick the wrong thing, and that also causes them to screw themselves up. And so my point is, and this is why I'm always saying this and reiterating, it's not that I'm some pain in the ass mother chasing you for your homework. I'm trying to explain to you that the less variables you create for yourself, the easier it will be to peak your body every single show. Don't do things that change the normal homeostasis, which implies the normal balance of the body. The body knows the right potassium and sodium. It's always in the right balance of potassium and sodium until you mess it up. Don't mess it up.
So from Bigger Leaner, the other day you made a reaction video about Phil Heath being announced as one of the lead, if not the lead commentators for this upcoming Olympia webcast. So the question is, well, I'll take it a step further. Do you think that Phil Heath will ever take the stage again? And his question specifically is, why, in your opinion, isn't Phil Heath competing anymore?
I think that Phil Heath still looks amazing. I've seen pictures of him. We've seen videos of him. But I don't think he has the stage physique that he had at his best. So you see him in a tank top. You see him in the gym. You know, his arms are ridiculous. He's got ridiculous legs and calves. I mean, and you say, holy mackerel, why doesn't this guy compete? It's like the Kai Green thing. But yet, their physique, he's in his 40s now. He doesn't have the pop around his waistline that he had, when he was younger. And so he has wow to his physique, but he doesn't have an Olympia. Like, he doesn't want to go to the Olympia and place top 5. He wants to go to the Olympia and win, okay? So for him, anything less than a win is a loss. So there's no reason for him to compete as far as I'm concerned. I think what he should do is do what Kai does, is use his physique to market himself and make money. That's what Phil should do. And as far as Phil being in the booth, I think it's a great move. I think that they need to have a really good straight man there who's going to know the facts and is going to help lead Phil. Matter of fact, I think that Sid, that they should get you to do that, because I think you would be great at that. You do it already for boxing. You do it for all the other sports, but basketball that you do. That would be right up your alley. If Dan Solomon's listening, man, get Sid in that booth with Phil Heath. I'm telling you, you'll have a stellar two guys in there.
I appreciate that. My phone line is always open. Let's go to the next question. So this is relevant to a point that Ian Valliere brought up last year. So remember, last year, Ian Valliere won the Tampa Pro, so earned his Olympia qualification. Then I think it was 2 weeks later, competed and won at the Texas Pro. Now, there were some murmurs about, why is he competing if he's already qualified? And obviously, the bellwether for this, Ashley Kaltwasser in the bikini division, how many shows she does. Obviously, open class, a little bit of a different beast in this regard. But, I know we discussed this last year, but let's revisit the topic. Is from Will Real Talk. Do you think that it's fair, I guess, for other competitors who are trying to compete for an Olympia spot, and you have someone who's already Olympia qualified in that lineup, and say they win, obviously nobody else gets their ticket to the Olympia?
I'm going to start playing my violin. Too bad. If he beats you, he beats you. He wants money. He wants to win the prize money. What they really should do is, if someone's qualified for the Olympia, like they've already won a pro show, they probably should give the second place guy the automatic qualification. That would solve that problem. Then no one would cry anymore. Because you know what the truth is? If Ian is that good and he can win 5 pro shows and collect all that prize money, then you know what? I applaud him, because you know what? No one else is out there doing it. Congratulations. That's the smart move. Make your money, bank it, use that money, invest it wisely. Buy your house, build a business, whatever you got to do with it. I think Ian is doing it right. That is a smart move. I understand people are crying that they can't beat him, but you know what? There was 10 I shouldn't say 10. There was probably 4 or 5 pro shows earlier this year where every week that I was breaking that show down with Chris, I'm like, why isn't this guy in this show? Why isn't that guy? We're getting, people that probably should never even be at the Olympia going to the Olympia because no one wanted to do these shows. That is a bad move on your part. And I predicted this would happen. I said, you know what? You're going to get someone like Ian. He's going to win 3 shows. You got, other guys that are going in there and collecting wins. And you know what? Someone's going to wind up not being able to go to the Olympia because they waited till the last minute and there's not enough shows. So you guys are not planning your strategies well enough to qualify for that Olympia. If you got to get in shape earlier in the year to do it at a show that's not as, crowded, then that's what you got to do. So I'm sorry. Do I think that they should maybe allow people, like if Ian wins a show and then he does another show, he's already qualified, let the second place guy? Yeah, I think that would probably be acceptable. I don't think anyone would complain about that, especially if Ian was there, and he already qualified, there's no reason to not give the qualification. But that right now, that's not the rule. So sorry,
I mean, now that you I guess ushered in that potential caveat, you just had the Van Pro, right? And I think there were 7 competitors there.
Right.
So it was a very sorry.
I said you're right.
But in that case, I mean, and again, obviously that's an extreme example, but in an extreme case where you have a very small lineup, why should number 2 or second place? I hear what you're saying, but I don't know, should that be universally applied?
Well, because if Ian wasn't there, then the second place guy ostensibly would have won and got it. So I mean, this way it takes out the spoiler effect.
But to your point, and it's been a general consistent point, then you're not talking about the cream of the crop on the Olympia stage, right? I mean, I still feel like
right. But what I'm thinking is
that needs to be.
Sometimes you don't know which show the good guys are going to. So you know what I mean? Like, so let's say you get a guy like Antoine Vaillant, okay?
Right.
And he does 3 shows in a row, and Ian's at all 3 shows and beats him 3 times, and he's second. Now, ostensibly, he might have enough points to go to the Olympia, but maybe not, at that point. And so should Antoine be able to go? Well, he was right there. He actually beat some judges, had him first at the prejudging. You know what I mean? So he was good enough. So in that sense, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But right now they're not doing that, so that's not even an option.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to revert back to again since 2014, and I know that it's been a point of yours, a point of contention, where there are times where you say to yourself, there are too many competitors at times, right? And you're not going to have the best of the best of the best. The Olympia stage should be for the Antoine Vaillant and Ian Valliere compete 3 times, in the span of a month. And Ian Valliere wins all 3 of those shows. Yeah, if Antoine gets enough points to qualify, that's his right. That's obviously why the qualification standing is there. But if he doesn't get enough points, I feel like you need to have the best of the best.
Yeah, this is the solution. If they had less shows with more prize money, like we talked about on Heavy Muscle Radio, where these promoters were forced to give away more money, less people would promote open shows. You'd have less shows. You'd have more people doing the shows, and then they can go back to the old system, which was top 3 at those shows, got a qualification to the Olympia. And back in the 90s, there were never like 1 million guys on the Olympia stage. There was, a decent amount, but there wasn't a ridiculous amount. So, I mean, you could always, or you can go to top 2, at a show, get qualified. So, but right now, with the amount of shows there are, you're going to have to just pick a better show. You can't wait till the last minute into the summer shows where everyone's doing all the shows, because you're going to get your Kuklos and you're going to get your Ian Vallières and you're going to get, Sergio and guys that are stalwarts on that Olympia stage that need to qualify and hunt the Labradas. And then you're screwed because you can't qualify because these guys are all every show leading up to the Olympia. There's a top guy there qualifying,
So this is going to seamlessly transition me to my next point, and that Dave doesn't know this yet, but we're going to drop it on him. Iron Debate's coming back soon. Topic that Dave and Chris Aceto brought up like 2-3 weeks ago about how we're just not getting anyone wanting to compete anymore. And it's become almost this irrational trend now over the course of the last few shows where, every Heavy Muscle Radio, Dave and Chris are talking about missed opportunity. Why wasn't this guy at the show? This guy, he could have, clinched his Olympia qualification at the show. Why wasn't he at the show? This guy is maybe a few points short of the top 3. Why wasn't he at this show? And then we kind of teased it on our Instagram. We got a wide cross section of opinions from pros, fans alike, pros who had very salient points about why they didn't compete at the show, why they didn't even know about the show, or why this just logistically didn't work out for them, or there wasn't enough incentive for them to. There's a whole smorgasbord of things that I think it is very intriguing topic, an intriguing set of topics. So we'll address that. So Iron Debate will be returning soon, and we're going to bring up that exact topic. Let's go to Excellent 187, good friend of the show. Dave, I know you're a low-volume guy when it comes to building muscle in general, but can you explain why gymnasts and cyclists have massive arms and calves, respectively, if they're using those muscles predominantly and frequently?
The word massive is very relevant, according to who you're comparing it to. If you saw a gymnast body, next to a bodybuilder, like on TV, you'd be like, this guy's like a skinny little nothing. And I think they said cyclists. Cyclists have good legs, some of them, the sprint ones, but not the long distance ones.
But you know what? I'll substitute that for Olympic sprinters. And again, respectively speaking, right?
Well, Olympic sprinters, though, they sprint, but they also squat and deadlift and stuff like that to build their quad muscles up. So gymnasts are doing repetitive action over and over again, and it is not necessarily endurance. Think about what gymnasts do. They're going to do a routine. They might go all out for 30 seconds to a minute, and then they're down. So it's kind of like weight training in a sense, even though they're using their body, but what they're doing with their body is insane. And these top gymnasts work out 8 hours a day. So there's a lot of lean tissue there, and there's very little body fat on a lot of these guys. And so what you're seeing is a really nice developed physique. You're not really seeing a huge physique. Very few. There's like maybe one top gymnast who's got a lot of mass on him, and he's probably just the genetic freak, in that sense. But most of these guys are not big. They're just ripped. And I think a lot of people see that physique and they want that, and they're like, well, I'll just work out 8 hours a day to look like that. Well, you're not going to look like that, okay? Because most people cannot recover from an 8-hour workout every day. These guys build up to it. They've been doing it since they're kids, and they just happen to be the creme de la crop, my father would say. Whenever you try to copy elite athletes, what they do, you invariably fail because 99% of the population doesn't have their genetics. And so you have to kind of find something that works for everyone. And what works for everyone is heavy weight, full range of motion, high intensity. And if you're going to do that, you're not doing more than 4 to 6 reps. If you get under a bench and give a maximum effort with 315 and you can squeeze 4-5 reps out with full range motion, you're going to grow a lot from that, assuming that you eat enough, okay? You won't be able to do many more reps than that, because if you can do 8 reps with that, then it's too light, the weight, and you're not going to grow from it. You have to go heavier. So the range to build muscle is 4 to 6 reps with good, like I said, full range of motion, heavy weights.
Interesting one here from the Chad at 10. Now, we've talked about before about, traveling, right? Like flying. Yeah. And, what your tips will be for someone to maintain a diet, maintain a physique while flying. We've discussed people who work jobs that, overnight or where they have to sit for very long periods of time. Well, this question is specifically about truck drivers, right? So obviously you're going to be sitting in a car or truck rather for many hours on end. It is, rigorous, but monotonous at the same time. So his question is just about staying healthy and keeping the stomach down. It's not really much of even a bodybuilding or physique question, just staying healthy in that line of work.
Didn't you ever see the movie Over the Top with Stallone? When he was an arm wrestler, and he had that cable in his truck, and he would be doing cable. He would be practicing his arm wrestling while he was driving. No, I don't advise you do that. But what I do advise, sitting in a truck all day long is really nothing wrong with that. I mean, because it's no different than sitting at a desk, doing, maybe you get a little more bouncy. But, I sit at a computer desk all day. It doesn't mean I'm not in shape. And it's not an excuse not to go to the gym and work out. I have a guy who I work with, Ernesto, who lost an enormous amount of weight, and he would go and walk around the parking lot. He'd park his truck and at the rest stop, and he'd walk around for an hour. That was his cardio. He'd get back in the truck, and he had all his food in the truck with him, and he was eating, every 2 hours when his meals came up. And you could do it's amazing what you could accomplish if you just plan. Because if you don't plan, you plan to fail. That's the old saying. You can do it. Believe me, you can do it. Sitting in a truck is no different than sitting in an office, okay? You just have to figure out when are you going to get to the gym and how are you going to have your meals for the day prepared. Are you going to prepare them? You're going to have places you can go and pick up meals that are going to, meet your requirements, or are you going to just stop haphazardly and get fast food? Because if you do that, you're going to be a fat ass, okay? There's no doubt about that. I guarantee it. Unless you're just one of these guys with a crazy metabolism and you eat twice a day, in which case you're just going to be a skinny guy, So if you want to have a physique, you have to plan.
Coffee flavored ISOLYZE, questions from Pipes. He says one of his favorite flavors, one of his favorite protein powders. Why is it not in a 44 serving container yet?
What? Repeat the question again, Sid.
No, he wants to know why it's not in a 44. 44 serving yet.
It's a specialty flavor that we were going to bring out just for shits and giggles, essentially, just for like a one-off. And it was so popular, and we sell so much of it that we just kept selling it, basically. And I never put it in a 44 just because we still haven't acknowledged that it's a successful flavor. We probably should put it in a 44, but you got to make a label for it, and it's another SKU. So for now, we're pretty much keeping it as a 22 because it's a specialty flavor, but it is very popular because a lot of people love the coffee taste, and it's not a bitter coffee. It's like a coffee and cream. Coffee. It tastes like a coffee and cream. So, it has caffeine in it. So a lot of people like to use it with breakfast. And for now, it's 22. In the future, we could possibly move it into a 44 too.
Take 2-3 more questions. Kavanaugh lifting. First cycle 200 mg test sip split twice a week. 23 years old. Any advice for a cycle?
It's hard for me to, you got to take at least 500 milligrams a week of testosterone if you want to do a cycle. If you do 250 a week, you're really just taking replacement, okay? If you want to get a pharmacological effect, you should take at least 500 milligrams a week. And you should stack it with another compound because steroids, when you take two different steroids, you get an amplifying or synergistic effect with these things. So whether you use 400 milligrams of equipoise or 400 milligrams of deca with that, you want to do two compounds together for at least 8 to 16 weeks. Sometimes guys like to use two different compounds the first 8 weeks and then two different compounds the next 8 weeks. Whatever it be, two compounds work better than one. You got to at least use 500 milligrams of testosterone.
Ivan Bodybuilding, your opinion on using GH only during prep the last 10 weeks for the purpose of fat burn recovery and keeping the muscle while dieting hard also is worth the money.
I don't know why they wouldn't just use anabolics with it because they work synergistically together too. You will burn some fat. If you want to save money and you want to burn fat, use clenbuterol. Clenbuterol and Cytomel or T3, same thing. I mean, that's a way better fat burning stack than GH. So I don't know if they're trying to avoid anabolic steroids and they want to just take GH, but if you're looking for fat burning, clenbuterol and T3, best bang for your buck.
Take one more question from Frankie. Obviously, this is someone you've developed quite the relationship with, and that's Tony Huge. And seemingly every time you talk to him, he tells you about his latest adventure, his latest. Obviously, he has such a wild, multifaceted life. This question specifically, what do you think about his quote experiments?
Look, Tony's a marketing guy. If you guys don't get that by now, then you don't understand anything that he's doing. So all these crazy quote experiments he does and these 7-day, how much muscle can you gain in 7 days or how much body weight, he's doing it for sensationalism so that he can draw attention to his product line and to himself. And that's called marketing. I mean, it's brilliant in a sense. And it gets people all fired up and polarized. He's an idiot. He's a genius. He's a this. He's a that. All he's trying to do is get you to pay attention to him, and he's doing it. And that's why he's making money in this industry. So, I take it with a grain of salt. And I know if I had Tony here, he off camera, he'd be like, yeah, it's a marketing thing. He doesn't, I don't think, really believe that you're going to build 10 pounds of muscle in 7 days. But it's kind of cool to see how much weight you can gain in 7 days. You're probably not going to do too much damage to your body in 7 days. People probably do worse than that when they go out and party for a bachelor party or a holiday weekend. Or I don't think it's any worse than that. So it's all about marketing, guys. That's Tony Huge right there. If you don't understand that, you don't understand him.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Reminder right now on the channel, yesterday's all-new episode of the After Hours podcast. Greg Valentino takes on a 150-foot wave going surfing. If you don't believe me, go watch the show. All-new episode of Iron Therapy, Heavy Muscle Radio, and then, of course, tomorrow, all-new episode of Iron Rage with Lee Priest. For Dave Palumbo and Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.